All right, so the question gets asked a lot this time of year. How long can Georgia, Kirby Smart, and the Dogs keep this run going? Okay, so I was talking not that long ago with Dylan Weber, who obviously y'all are in the sea and riding home quite a bit. We were talking about the teams of the decade, and it has to occur to someone that already Georgia very well may be the team of the 2020s. I mean, they've won two national championships already. So any other championship, it's going to be hard for other teams, particularly teams not named Alabama, to catch them because that would involve winning three of the next seven. That's hard to do. So what do they have to do to keep it going? One of the biggest things with signing day right around the corner on Wednesday is that you can't just you have to have steady recruiting the entire time. That's one of the biggest keys to success in football, in business, whatever, is acquiring and developing the right people. And when you do that, um, I think it allows you to grow your program the way that you want to, the way that you view as the right way. And what Georgia's done over the last, really 6 years, maybe seven, is they have steadily recruited at a top five level. They have not done the Texas A&M put your foot in the pool just to see how it's nice at the recruiting edge and do one really spectacular class. That won't work. I mean, you got to have several really good classes in a row. And I think that when you take a look at the 90-ish players who are on track to come back to Georgia, obviously they can only play with 85. But once you take a look at that group, um, there's depth everywhere. I'm old enough to remember what it was like to see Georgia be desperate to sign Isaiah Crowell because they felt like if they didn't, you know, they'd really be in trouble in 2011. And as it turns out, Isaiah really did matter a lot that season. When you think about his game against, they lost it, but against South Carolina, the win over Auburn, his play against Tennessee, to some degree, his play against Florida, he was their best back. He was hurt a lot, but they depended on one player too much. They're not in that position now. And I think the thing about where Georgia's at compared to their peers, the only one that really is in the same universe is Alabama. And Alabama's having an outstanding recruiting season. Make sure you're picking up double dogs now. If you don't order before midnight, you're not going to get confetti. Obviously, I've been showing it a lot. Sunday uh, at 11:59, that's the cutoff. So uh, if you order double dogs, you will get confetti from the game, the win over Texas Christian. If you don't order by then you'll just get the book, and that's going to be great. It's awesome. A lot of people have been ordering both books. Right now, Dog Struction is on back order, and I'm getting some in soon. Double Dogs will be delivered middle February on. So make sure, and some of that's not up to me. If I could snap my fingers and get it to y'all immediately, I would. But these are books you're not going to find anywhere else. The books that other folks are doing are really cool. They're great. If you can afford them, you should get them. You should get this book. This book is better. I'm just going to tell you right now, and I'm not. I mean, it just is. It's got images you don't see anywhere else, and they're not just, stories that were written 5 months ago. This is the reason why it takes me a little bit longer to get the book to y'all is because I'm writing it as the season concluded. Okay, not during the year and just copying and pasting. So make sure you're picking up Double Dogs. If you're a Dog Post subscriber, you still need to get it. There's stuff you're not going to see on the site online. We just have a perspective, having been to every single game, that we can tell the story in a way that other folks don't. Actually, we're just going to tell the story. Other folks are just, I don't know what they're doing. Some people aren't even writing books, which is bizarre to me. But um, I think when you wonder, can Georgia keep this up? Can there be more books? Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, because with the way that Georgia has developed itself and recruited and um, put players in position to be, not just good but dominant, that leads to a lot of wins. Period. And I think that there's not going to be a lot of South Carolina Georgias in 2019. Teams are going to have to come up and recruit on the level with Georgia, develop on the level with Georgia. I just There's not enough players to go around in college football. Forget the transfer portal. You got to get them on your campus and develop them. And that's not happening in a lot of places. I think Ohio State played its best game of this last 28 games that they played in 21 and 22, and they still couldn't win that game. Maybe they should have. I don't know, but they didn't. And why did they not? Well, um, they couldn't stop Georgia in the fourth quarter, and Georgia stopped them. I mean that's what it was. And when you come down to it, sports nearly always comes down to the final stanza, the fifth set in tennis, or the third set for those of us who are not professionals. Um, the final 4 minutes or whatever of basketball in college, and unquestionably the fourth quarter in football. And that's the other thing that makes me think that this thing can go for a while for Georgia is they have. So let me say this beforehand. Everybody, whenever someone wins a national championship, talks about how long they can go for. And okay, I am old enough and have a good enough memory to remember the discussion after Clemson won the national championship in 18, when idiots were asking on air if Clemson would ever lose a game. And it's like, what are you talking about, bro? You know, Georgia's going to lose, no question. I mean, I think they'll lose. I don't know when or to who, but you know, you don't just roll over everybody. And the notion that you would is insane. Now, the difference though was that to me, Clemson in 16 and 18 specifically, those were predicated on a particular player that happened to be their quarterback. You can't say that about Georgia necessarily in 2022. They had a very good quarterback. They did not have a quarterback that most people thought was a, first round, number one overall franchise quarterback in the NFL. Clemson had exceptional defenses. That's gone completely. We knew Trevor Lawrence would leave. We knew Deshaun would leave. Um, I wasn't as certain that they would lose the defensive stuff, but they did. Alabama lost the defensive side of the ball in many ways. LSU, what was that predicated on in 19? It was not on Ed Orgeron. I can tell you that right now. God bless him. No, no, it was Joe Burrow. I mean, Joe Burrow is a badass. The other thing too, when you look back at Georgia against those teams, Ed Orgeron's teams. One of his teams lost to Troy. Clemson, they'll lose any particular. I mean, like there's no telling which game that they'll lose. They lost to South Carolina this year, but even in their run, they lost to Syracuse, NC State, like that. No, so Georgia, when you beat them, you better have an overwhelmingly good quarterback. Not a sort of good quarterback, a really, really, really good quarterback. And that's the question coming into, as I wag my finger at you, that's the question coming into 23. Just looking on the landscape of college football, there's one really good quarterback coming back that I can tell. Now, I'm going off the top of my head here, but it's Williams at SC. And SC's not built the way everybody else is defensively. They leak points. So I think to say, oh, they'll three-peat. No, I'm not, I'm not that guy. I don't just, you know, anoint things. We don't know. They're certainly not going 6-6, Zion, Logue. Bro, come on. What are y'all talking about with this 6-6 stuff? Georgia ain't going 6-6 in anytime soon. They haven't gone 6-6 anytime soon. I mean, like since y'all were like six. So no. But uh I don't know if there's a lot of quarterbacks out there who are at the level of Joe Burrow, Bryce Young, um, at Florida when he was there. Kyle Trask was a very good quarterback that last year for sure. Uh, Jalen Hurts, Tua. These are the guys that beat Georgia. These are Heisman Trophy finalists, quarterbacks in the season that has happened. We didn't see that a lot with these other teams either, man. I mean, like you're gonna have to figure out how to beat this team with a really, really good quarterback. You better have a run game too. It's just gonna be challenging. Doesn't mean it can't happen. And I don't know what Ohio State's returning. I don't know what Michigan's returning. Really, I know they're returning their quarterback, but do they have an exceptional player at quarterback? That's the key. If you have that, you got a shot. Bryce Young, Joe Burrow. I mean, when you look at the last four people to beat Georgia. And you got to go back to 2019 to get four losses for Georgia. The last four quarterbacks that beat Georgia were Bryce Young, uh, Kyle Trask, Mac Jones, Joe Burrow. Those guys all went in the first two rounds. Well, Bryce Young's not gone yet, but don't worry, he will go in the first five picks. So you're talking about the worst quarterback that they lost to was a Heisman Trophy finalist, if I'm not mistaken, was Kyle Trask. So if you don't have those things, you're going up against a battering ram of development and talent acquisition. It's really hard to do that and to beat the Dogs.